Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 846. I had the white pieces and started off with e4. And my opponent went e5. And so we play the main moves here, knight f3, attacking the pawn, knight c6, defending it, and bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez. Now he plays the main line here, the Morphy defense with a6, not the Berlin defense with knight f6. So always glad to see that. And bishop drops back to a4. I don't go for the exchange variation. Plays knight f6, and I castle. So far so good. And then the next move is a bit unusual. So the main line continues with the bishop to e7. That's the main line closed Ruy Lopez. The open Ruy Lopez continues with knight takes e4. Those are the top two choices. The third choice here is the way I play it. There's another way of getting into the Neo-Archangelsk. So just to show how that goes, bishop b5, kicking the bishop back, and then bishop c5. It's a slight improvement over the immediate bishop c5 because a lot of times the bishop wants to go to the c2 square. It's going to get chased there by the knight, and in this way it takes two moves to get there, whereas you'll see in the game it actually got there in one move. So the immediate bishop c5, apparently this is also called the Neo-Archangelsk variation, and c3 is the main move here, just as it is against the Archangelsk, the Neo-Archangelsk, the way I play it. But I didn't quite recognize that, maybe because he hadn't inserted b5 and bishop b3. So I was looking around for a move here, and I was wondering about the pawn, and ended up just simply defending it. But let's go back and look at the main move here, c3, and what happens if he takes that pawn, because you always have to worry about that. Normally, yeah, he would just play b5 and then the bishop would drop back to c2 and everything would be okay at that point. But if he takes the pawn, then you can throw in d4. Let's see, he eventually has to retreat the bishop. He can exchange first and then retreat the bishop. But after that, well, let's see, I looked at it with the chess engine. Yeah, the chess engine actually liked bishop a7 a little better. I think it's pretty much the same. And then d5 pushing on like this, kicking this knight around, and then queen to e2, hitting this knight, which has to drop back, and then rook to e1. So the chess engine plays a pawn down, but you see that white got some tremendous development here. And notice that black can't castle because this it would lose the knight on on e7. So anyway, it's an interesting way to play. So it is possible to to grab that pawn, but you do get into a lot of trouble if you're black. So that's why normally they just play c3 here. But I played rook e1, defending the pawn. He castled, and we're just out of the opening book. So we'll just look at this. Instead of castling, he could continue with b5 again, kicking the bishop back to b3, or he could have played knight g4. And that actually was rated pretty highly by the chess engine. And after rook e2, there's even lines where the knight and bishop sacrifice themselves on f2 in exchange for a pawn and a knight, after playing f4 first to open up the f-file. It looks like that's some interesting play for black. So that's maybe one of the problems with this immediate rook e1 move. But as I said, he just castled, and I went c3 now. And everything seems to be kind of back in order here. He went b5, kicked my bishop back, and then he went bishop b7. So this is the first kind of mistake. You know, you can question our opening moves as not being the most precise, but this seems to actually land black into hot water. It seems like the thing that black needs to do, and he probably needed to do it at several points during the game, is needs to move the d-pawn forward, open up this diagonal for the bishop, and either d6 or d5 is playable according to the chess engine. But bishop b7, the thing about this maneuver is a lot of times you can get away with it. That's sometimes the idea of the Neo-Archangelsk. And the original Archangelsk also had the bishop placed on this square. But it's only if it's a closed position. And this is a position that I can open up with the move d4. So d4 is the right response here. Let's see, he took, I took back, and then he moved the bishop here to b4, hitting my rook. So I just played knight to c3 to interpose. And yeah, the chess engine rates white as significantly better here, more than a pawn advantage, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it looks good visually. I have this space, but it's not entirely clear without a lot of calculation why white should be so much better. And he can still play d6. That's what he should play right here, is d6, and just try and hold off my big center and just play this position. Instead, he went rook e8. And this seems to lose immediately after the move e5. But, well, this is a complicated position. e5 might be considered a natural move, though, because rook e8 has just taken away one of the last good squares for this knight. I mean, where else is this knight going to go? These squares are taken, right? And if it comes out here to, well, you know, one thing it could try is knight d5, trying to exploit the pin, but it's not much of a pin because it's just a rook there. So, you know, I could go ahead and take the knight and get 2 pieces. Let's see. Oh, it didn't give queen e1 there. Let's see. Instead of queen e1, how about bishop to g5? Yeah, kicking the queen, and then queen to d3. Just going for all these tactics here. And if g6, knight f6 check, so not even bothering to grab that bishop, which is still hanging down here. Anyway, interesting play from the chess engine. Looks like that's pretty dangerous, that knight d5 move for black. Or he could try knight g4. e5, yeah, knight to g4. And then I can play knight to g5 as a counter, and I'm attacking the h7 pawn, and I'm attacking the knight, so that looks like that lands him in hot water. Again, the knight doesn't have a lot of safe squares, and if he retreats to h6, I can actually just grab on h7. So it seems like he's losing material in any case after he plays his rook e8 if I play the correct e5 move. Anyway, I was still thinking about finishing my development. I played bishop f4 here, which is not a bad move. It's just that there were better moves. This keeps an advantage to white, though. So we exchange. He plays knight a5, looking at this nice c4 square, and also ganging up on my e-pawn. He's got 3 pieces. Looking at it now. So I defended it. Once again, the chess engine likes e5. But I just defended it. He went knight c4. And I had noticed that I could trade this off and then push it forward, and then I wasn't so worried about knight d5 in this circumstance. I just dropped my bishop back to defend, and I just have more space in the center, and I have the bishop pair. So it's a comfortable advantage to white, but not immediately losing for black either, so he can play on. He goes knight e7, go queen g4, getting my queen out, looking at the king side. He goes knight g6 to kind of block things up. And now I wanted to get this h4, h5 going to chase the knight away. And the knight doesn't have many good squares. It would have to drop back somewhere. And maybe I can get something going against g7 there. I threw in rook to b1. I think this was probably a good developing move as well. Maybe the rook can be active on the b file here. He defended his bishop. And then I started with my plan, g3, to follow up with h4, h5. Now he played c5, counterattacking in the center. Not a bad idea, although I think maybe he might have been better off undermining with the d6 first. I just ignored that and continued on with h4. He took, I took back, and then he went d5. And right here, yeah, I took en passant. And he took with his queen. And right here is the tactic that I missed. And I mentioned this during the game, but if you want to see if you can spot the tactic here, it's white's turn to move. What's the best move here? Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. You can just take this rook with check. The only piece that I can take back is the rook. And then he's just undefended his bishop, and the entry squares here are guarded, right? So he doesn't have he doesn't have the idea of the rook coming into e2 or to e1 with check. The queen is guarding the e2 square. So anyway, that would be just winning a piece for me. That was instead I was just following through with the plan I had conceived of earlier, pushing the pawn forward. Once again, this is an okay move. I mean, it's a good, keeps an advantage to white, but when your opponent gives you a chance like that, you should really take it. And so now he noticed that he had some problems on the back rank, and so he exchanged out here, taking first. And maybe it's a little more accurate, actually, to take back with the bishop and keep the rook on this file. But I thought maybe the rook would be useful here, but the chess engine likes taking with the bishop better. Anyway, he went bishop to c8, and after that actually loses. It looked like a good forcing move hitting my queen, but it loses because it gives up the back rank for just a move. And in fact, let's see, he has to block, and the simplest win here is just to take his bishop. So because the queen is, there's a backfire. He attacked the queen, but now the queen is attacking the bishop along with the rook. So it just wins a piece there, as well as maintaining the pin on the back rank. So that would be the simplest way to play it. I had another idea, which is also good. I played queen e4, and after bishop e6, I was able to mate in one, because this pinned knight is not really defending h7, so there's a mate threat here. Now he can defend against the mate threat with f5, but there's this nice tactic that the chess engine finds here. So I'm actually still winning even against the best defense. I can play bishop f4 here, hitting his queen, and if he takes my queen, I take his queen, and not only am I hitting the rook, but I'm also hitting the knight and threatening checkmate once again. And if the bishop moves, of course, the rook will take the rook, so that is completely winning as well. So basically there was no defense, and I guess I didn't look at g6, but I was planning to take it, and then I think I break through. Probably, maybe the immediate bishop to h6 is even quicker, ganging up on that knight. But anyway, it's all winning for me. But he played bishop to e6, which allows the quickest win, which is just to mate the king. It's a nice illustration of how even pieces that are hanging still have their powers until they're taken off the board. And of course, a pinned piece, its power is only an illusion. So that's a famous quote from someone. Anyway, I will hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you later. Bye.